Moving on to our second topic, Insomniac, which are known these days for the Spider-Man games, are releasing a new Wolverine game in the fall of this year. I just seen a trailer and it looks brutal because when your main character uses claws to fight, that's kind of going to be a natural effect. But like they don't shy away from the violence in this one, Leo. It's like bloody, graphic. You got a mega wed in there. You got Mystique. Guessing Sabretooth probably going to be in it at some point. Did you see the trailer for this game?
I have, and it's quite jarring to see the more happy-go-lucky Spider-Man style game suddenly having the same to escalate to casual dismemberment.
Yeah, this is far from like the first solo Wolverine game we got, and I think the first one that I know of was Wolverine Adamantium Wave was on Sega and Super Nintendo, and that was hard. Like when I played that, I couldn't even get past level one. And then there was another game in the PS2, GameCube, Xbox era called S2 Wolverine Within. It was also just as hard as the previous one. And so I'm wondering, if this is going to be just as hard as those games, or are they going to dumb it down for casual players, or what?
Well, I have no memory of Wolverine's prior video game debuts, as honestly, superheroes is something I just don't really drift towards in the video game sphere. As for the game difficulty, well, the trailers seem to have them playing smoothly with what little I could discern was actual gameplay. Given, again, all the casual dismemberment, it seems individual enemies at least aren't very durable.
Yeah, it looks like you're going to be riding a motorcycle at one part in the game, and they got his classic suit, which is the yellow and blue spandex with the mask. Like he's going to have. I'm hoping there's going to be like alternate costumes in this game, because that was one thing I liked about Wolverine's Defense was you had like his diva suit, then you had the comic book suits, the red and orange and the yellow and blue, then you had the movie suit. You had a lot of costumes in that. Hopefully this will have just as many though. I think it will because the Spider-Man game, you could train costumes like mid-game.
That's a good question. Is really, it was my brother that was into the Spider-Man games rather than me. So I'm really out of the loop on its features.
But apparently, an Easter egg in the Spider-Man game is if you change suits too much, some radio host will call you out on it. That's pretty funny.
Huh. Characters in the universe actually have seen video game features. That is an interesting twist.
But yeah, if it follows the trend of modern gaming, it's probably gonna have like a super easy mode and then a really hard mode to kind of so everybody wins. So from what I could gather, I haven't played the Insomniac Spider-Man game, but they did look fairly difficult in some respect.
Well, I do not recall precisely which Spider-Man games my brother was playing, but he seemed to be doing well enough. Really something I should have thought to look more into for this interview.
Well, were you like a big X-Men fan growing up or a Wolverine fan at all? I forget what comic books you went after, if any.
Well, early on, it's more that I learned of comic books through the alternate media they were presented in. I was a fan as a kid of the X-Men TV shows back when it was like a weekly cartoon series. I cannot remember exact names, but that sort of thing is how I got into most comic book IPs originally.
Oh, well, there was a 92 cartoon that was just called X-Men, the animated series, and then they had X-Men Evolution.
I am unsure of the first, but I know I had watched some degree of X-Men Evolution.
And that's actually a pretty underrated cartoon. They did some things really good, but most people remember the 92 cartoon as being the best.
Unfortunately, that's one of those archaic memories where the distinctions blur together.
Yeah. Go. You ever check out X-Men '97?
I have no memory of this, so I'm assuming not.
Yeah, that was a continuation of the '92 cartoon, but it was definitely not made for kids because, like, yeah, it gets bad after a while.
That is an interesting choice of escalations.
Yeah, I
I
don't
hope
mean
they.
bad like in quality. I mean bad like in freaking in one episode, a three-headed sentinel comes out of nowhere and just kills a bunch of mutants.
I had assumed you meant it getting into darker content, and well, I hope it wasn't directly marketed at kids during that era. Although, given what Digimon got away with putting on Saturday morning cartoons, I would not be surprised.
One thing that was kind of cost so fussy was it kind of had Woe have a romance thing with Magneto, which just felt uncomfortable. Like he's like Shicer, he's good.
That is a very odd choice for either of them to make. How many drugs were involved?
Yeah, like I guess it was in the comics, but it's one of those things where like just because it's in the comic books don't mean you need to adapt it for your show.
Yeah, as it just sounds like a tremendously awkward subplot given the age gap factor you mentioned.
Well, I guess it was the thing because and I didn't see this ever done before until this show, but because of his control over magnetism, he can touch Wogue.
Huh.
Yeah, your hun says, "Oh, I don't know how that really works." To be honest.
This does not compute.
Yeah. But man, can you imagine had they done that in the movie, considering how old the guy playing Magneto was compared to how old the girl playing Wogue was? That would have been creepy.
I can't imagine that being well received.
Yeah. They can get away with that in the cartoon because the live action, no, definitely not.
That would make the age gap portion of the romance, note the quotation marks, much more obvious to the viewers.